Hello everybody. Talking to you today in the middle of winter, El Nino winter, bomber swell. Been surfing for the last few days. It's in between Christmas and New Year. The guys are off, just like North Shore, that old movie. When there's waves, nobody's working, brah. And so we're kind of doing that this week, but we needed a break because we've been working so hard. So been scoring, and I thought, what a better day when everybody's hyped on guns and huge waves to finally have a little window of opportunity in between surfs when the factory's quiet and there's no compressor coming on in the background and noises and stuff, but just come over and talk about fishes. Because over the summer I worked on a fish project with some of my friends, and it was just an idea I had of taking two different board models. The post mod, which is, it's like a more of a traditional fish, but souped up a bit with heavier concaves, and the fins not just straight on, but with a bit of tilt, bit of cant, so you could really lay them over in turns, but still with the wider tail, a la Steve List style fish. And that combined with a board I've been doing for a long time, which is the Lil Rascal, which was kind of a more shortboardy pulled in swallowtail, but with a full nose on it, like a traditional fish ear board, which you could corner a little tighter because it didn't have the wide tail, and you could ride that as an MR 2+1 or as a twin or even as a quad or even as a thruster, and that was real performance in the pocket. But I just had an idea for something new over this summer, and I'm going to walk you through that now, even though it's the middle of winter, but sometimes these things take a little time, and this is the first window of opportunity I've had to talk about it. So we're going to start with, this is my post mod that I've been doing, that a lot of people, it's a really fun board, super speedy, just gets up on the wave face and you get a burst of speed that's even more than a fish, because a lot of times fishes will redline. They'll get going so fast that they can be hard to turn, especially in the top part of the wave. But it's really fun to go fast, especially at points where you just want to clear some sections, do float smashes and rock and roll floats and styly arcs, twisty hip styly arcs, stuff like that. And this has been great for that. And here we got some old school glass on twins on this thing too. But you'll notice they're not straight on the fins. They actually have a angle to them, like 2 inches off center of the nose is typically what I do. But I've moved the fins back even further closer to the tail, so when you get them closer to the tail, they get closer together so that it has more hold that way. And then also put some tilt in the fins, so it's not just a straight liner, but you can get it on the curve and it'll follow through. And then I shallowed the swallowtail a bit on this as well, so you can get your foot further back. And then put tons of concave, which is just a deep single all the way through, almost like a toe board, with doubles, I call them sluice boxes, in through here. So that's this board. That's the post mod that's been around for the last few years. There's a specific breakdown on just that board under the post mod. And then this, even before the post mod, probably 10 years before the post mod came to be, was this, the Lil Rascal. And this legend surfer from the Gold Coast, Jay Phillips, really took this to the next level when we worked on this years and years ago. First Point Malibu, he showed up, got on a Rascal, and just flared up and turned heads, and is still just some legendary surfing to this day. But what I felt like doing is taking, I was kind of inspired recently from my friend Jera, one of my team riders in Australia. His good buddy Asher hopped on these fishes with DH back in the day, and it was transformational. I remember seeing him going, oh my gosh, this guy found his niche, and made me look at fishes a whole different way. So in his surfing, what really inspired me was how he could turn tight and performance in the pocket and do these classic lines that a lot of shortboard surfers couldn't even do. And so I thought, well, let's try to do something like that. And so basically what I was seeing is with the Rascal, where it's a real flat rocker all the way through, it's got a little bit of an apex point in the middle to keep it loose so it's not just a straight liner, and the narrower tail lets it turn turn quick in the pocket, go rail to rail quicker if it's narrower back there. But it's still really straight through the tail rocker. So I thought, you know what, let's combine the post mod, like standard fish, standard twin fin, with the Lil Rascal, and we'll call it the TRascal, the TRascal. So it's a twin and a rascal put together. But it's not just the outline of a fish up top with a more pulled in tail towards the bottom, but also adding tail rocker through the back third of the board. So the TRascal, this new board that I worked on over the summer, we added like about that much more tail rocker to it, starting right here in between the feet, just to loosen it up, because more curve through the back third can have the low entry and the glide, the easy get in, the fast down the line, but then you bend it more from here back, and what you're gonna get is a board where curve fits in curve of the wave for the top part of the wave, where it will hold a tighter arc and just be able to do snaps like a fish that could come off the bottom, tap it, do fin release stuff like a short board, come back in without it being too straight to where it doesn't match the curve on the comeback. And so that's where another friend of mine, Nick, who hadn't been surfing in a while, and it was summertime and the waves were weak, and he was like, hey, do you have a board? Let's design a board for Leo Carrillo, or just like weak sauce waves, so it can become a race course and make it super fun. So people go, how's that possible? And so, plus fishes get you back in the swing when you haven't been in the saddle for a while. So this was TRascal number one in the fish project. So you can see how we have the front half of the traditional twin fin, and then it's kind of like a twin fin back here, but the tail is pulled in. Got this little curve back here, kind of a traditional, you know, swallowtail depth, maybe a little shallower than normal, so you can get your foot back here. And these octopus pads have worked really good, because they, you know, have this so you can get further back, and this good pad for high performance fishes. And then what we did is I took, and like I was saying, I added that tail rocker here. So it's about almost a ½ inch more tail rocker than the Rascal, and almost an inch more tail rocker than the post mod. And I switched to a more traditional hull contour, which is just a single to double with spiral V, which is what the Rascal has, but it's still got that low entry. So you're gliding on the paddle, but you're also jamming down the line for the drive. And yeah, it's got a beak on there just because beaks are cool and it keeps the thickness up front. So I was laughing the other day, a guy came in, ordered a Holy Roller that also has a beak in it, and I'm like, beak or no beak? And he goes, no man, beak. Beaks are back. I'm like, yeah, beaks are back. So beaks are back. That was number one. And this one we did with traditional, this Futures, we did the Rostovich keels, the 7-inch fish keels, traditional. Had them angled, tilt, kept them with the move back further, so it, you know, has that better traction on rail through the turn. And this one, before my friend Nick, who we were the two that were brainstorming this kind of a thing, before he could get on that, my friend Jacob, who's recently moved up here from San Clemente, regular footer, great surfer, really stylish surfer. And I said, it was a small day at Malibu, I'm like, dude, I got a board that hasn't been rode yet, but you're the right build, you could try this thing, you want to try it? And he's like, yeah, let's look at it. So we looked at it, and he's like, this looks, let's go. And so first wave, it was one of those really cool projects where first wave, see him get in easy, take off, flying down the line, and I'm watching, and then I see like straight up, board go nose to tail, big bucket, and then seamless, and I see a big wrap after that. And it was like that feeling as a shaper where you go, it works. And then the follow-up to confirm, because sometimes as a shaper you're like, it works, and the horse gets a little ahead of the cart, or the cart gets a little ahead of the horse, however that saying works. So for the follow-up confirmation, you're always looking for the person that you made the board for the wave that it was designed for. that's confirmed when they come paddling back out with a look like this and like this. And that means, ooh, I think we're onto something. And so my buddy paddles back out with that, you know, psyching look on his face, and we're both kind of psyching, and he goes, hey, we're onto something here. I think we hit it. And so proceeded to get waves, looked for, like with fish, I specifically look for, are they slipping out when you're pushing on them? Because you can get all that speed from the outline and the flatter rocker up front. And but then when you start bending more rocker through the back half, especially with single to double concaves with the spiral V, that's subtle stuff, you want to make sure they don't slip. So a lot of that depends on where you place the fins, the angles, that kind of thing. So like I said, I like to move them back closer together, and that usually keeps them holding nice and tight through the turn. And so then we built from that one, from the good feedback, which was sort of like, we're there. But I was still thinking, well, let's just push it a little further, see if we can keep the speed, but get it even tighter and more almost like big vert inverted bucket, tail drift into traditional fish like open face, big figure eight, cutty, rebound. Like both of those two things. Because usually that's kind of just shortboard realm, that first kind of maneuver. The second one is typically the fish thing, you know, the big swoops. So I was thinking, let's see how far we can go. So this one, number 2 in the TRascal experiment, I bent a little bit more even rocker. Only like an 1/8 inch, 3/16, but that little bit does a lot with a board. 1/8 of an inch is a big deal when you start playing with rockers, especially ones that are fishy flat like this. So I did that, and then we switched from 7-inch traditional fish keel to more of an MR style template. We went with a True Ames, Chuck Ames's template that he designed a while ago actually, but it's still fully current and relevant and actually futuristic, ahead of its time, the True Ames twin. And we did that in the futures, and I moved the fins back even a hair further, just since with a True Ames MR stylish performance twin fin, the base shrinks from 7 inches to like 5. This one I think is a hair over 5. So moved it back even a little bit more, but also without all that base, you can get more pivot around your rail and your fin coming off the bottom. Added the tail rocker and thought, okay, let's see, is it gonna start slipping out? Didn't slip out. Went with this one, and that's where Nick jumped on. He calls me one day, and my friend Nick's like, hey, I wanna go surf. I'm like, well, the waves aren't that good. He's like, I don't care, I just gotta get in the water. What about those fishy ideas? I'm like, I got 3 now. I've already like blown past the first one. Let's go ride all 3. So we rode the first one, then rode this one. And the ruling was killer, even better, no slippage. And then we had them all on the beach. And then we grabbed this one. Remember, it was like the hottest day of the summer. I remember we were sweating on the beach coming in to grab boards. And then grabbed this one. This one, I kept the extra tail rocker, but I switched to glass-ons because the MRs seemed to work so good. They cornered tighter, but without losing drive. So we glassed them in like old school style. So the lamination of the board, the fins are all part of one design element rather than fin, in box, in board. So did these, and then just did a small MR trailer for the back to give it, you know, a little stability back here to really push on even harder. And then the tail block did basically a wide rounded diamond, so pulled it in even a little bit more in here, and then did what my friend Edwin, he told me what this, I like cut it in. I didn't know any name for it. And he saw it, he's like, dude, that's called a pizza slice. So it's pizza slice, big slice of pizza. So if you're hungry, it's a big slice. And shallow too, so even shallower than the shallow swallowtail, so you can really get your foot back there. And this one was the one. So this is what we finally went with. This is the TRascal design. So 1, 2, 3, and they're all winners. They're all winners. That's just a little bit more traditional twinny. more high performance 20, and then thing is just straight radical. And so this was the final, and put some neat tints in there to boot, you know, just give it it's fun to have fishes that have a little character to them. So you put some resin tints, some airbrushes, stuff like that. But this TRascal design I've found it also works in like steep tubes. You're able to get in early, chip in early, but it really has that like zzz into the pocket feel, where a lot of fish, they tend to have that like just straight down the line, try to harness them in feel. This has that like pendulating, ball bearing speed feel, but with full speed ahead drive, but really lively in the pocket. So I'm considering it my latest, best fish design that's a high performance, easy to ride, super versatile fish. And here's another one. This one's actually a little smaller. This is a 5.2. And this one is for a little bit lighter of a surfer. That's for my friend Jonah. And so this one, you'll see I actually pulled this in a little tighter, put a little winger back here. This loosens it up off your back foot. Little less area back here, smaller pizza slice because of the reduced area in the tail. Just for a lighter surfer, it's going to come around quicker, so it doesn't feel too platey back there. So all these things you can custom nuance to the person, their body mechanics, their build, and adjust it so that, you know, full speed ahead, cornering tight, fishy, glidey, but still smashable vertical. So that's this. And then this one, this is a resin art that I actually did because I thought it would be cool to do a board that has color on it that looks like one of those poison frogs from the Amazon rainforest. So that's what I modeled this motif after. So poison dart frog, TRascal, little 5.2 model. And one other thing you'll notice about the TRascal, it's got a really flat deck all the way through. A lot of fishes, they'll have what's called like an S deck, where it goes boom, down and then down. This has what I call more of like a saddle deck shape. So from nose to tail, it actually scoops like this. And a lot more foam is cut out of here. So it's not a dome deck, it's flat, and then it has like pinched rails, especially through here, so you can really sink them. So it's real thin back here, pinched down, flat deck, and that lets the board breathe more. So nose to tail, when it doesn't have an S deck, that can tend to make it a little stiffer nose to tail as it flexes. This lets the board breathe, so it really flexes a lot. You can load them up and feel them spring more out of turns. So went with that, and then just redistributed the foam out here by using the flat deck. You don't have to get it by having the dome. It adds more of a flex characteristic through the length of the board, but you still keep the float by pushing the foam out to here, but you still keep the rail sensitive by tapering it down and pinching it down here. So that's another important aspect, because the flex pattern of how you foil a board's thickness flow out affects its overall liveliness. And then last of all, the latest project is I took, and this is just a rough shape so far, but I took, because I've had people asking, hey, that new TRascal, seen guys riding those, do you make them in like big guy, Monster Chief for the big dudes? What about us big dudes? So this is one of the first ones where I just resized the home run one into Monster Chief style dimensions. This one's 6'3", where these are all 5'7", 5'2". Here's a 5'4". This is a 5'8" Rascal. This I resized to a 6'3" by 22 by 2 3/4. That's 45 liters overall. So a lot of foam in there, but the geometry as it's resized is all really true. And so I think this, for the bigger guys, is going to be the TRascal that doesn't forget about all different, you know, body shapes and sizes. So we got from, you know, little to big, to glide across and smash it up. The TRascal. Phew.